Liberty and justice for all.
Next order of business, we have several minutes to review and approve. The first one is the September 27th non-public sealed meeting minutes.
I make a motion we accept the meeting minutes from September 27th.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Yeah, I guess I'm encroaching.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
All right.
Second is the September 27th regular meeting minutes.
I make a motion we accept the meeting minutes from September 30th, September 27th, I'm sorry.
Okay. It's moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions?
Yeah, I was absent.
Okay. You weren't present. Yeah, I still have it. Third is September 30th, non-public minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Mary Ann moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Zach seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions?
I was absent.
You're abstaining?
Yeah,
You weren't here.
I wasn't here.
All right, one abstention. I still have it. All regular meetings will begin at 5 p.m. and the Select Board will next meet on October 25th. It's Monday. And after that, we will meet on November 8th and November 22nd. And work sessions are now wrapped up into regular meetings, so everything starts at 5. And all of the above meetings will begin at Town Hall. Citizens wishing to be listed on the Select Board's agenda should notify the Town Hall before 12 noon the Friday before the scheduled meeting. Bartlett Road is closed. Says indefinitely, but the sign says it'll reopen the 31st. And I drove by there before I came here tonight, and they've got the asphalt. I'm sure people really are interested in this one, but the asphalt's ripped up. They've, I guess, dug up the underlayment, and now they were kind of like, putting sand, or at least fill down, and compressing it. So maybe it'll be quicker than the 31st. I don't know, but and also it says it's open until the Mill Road, but that's not the case. It's closed at where Bartlett goes off from Yetton. I have no comments. And next item is the pinning of our new police chief, Alex Hutchins, and also our new deputy police chief, Nate Buffington. But Alex, we have the...
He does.
Okay. And congratulations on your new appointment. And this is a very exciting time for our town to have this historic kind of like transition from long-term resident to a full-blown police chief. So thank you, and can the family pin you?
You want us first?
Stay there for a minute, please.
Made it around.
Yeah.
Thank you.
everyone.
It's an honor for me to pin that Plymouth Chief of Police badge on you. I'm proud of you. Your grandmother is looking down at you from heaven, and she's proud of you. You're taking on a great responsibility. May God bless you and protect you.
One more this way, guys.
What?
Yeah. I'm like a bad penny. Look this way, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, that was impressive. And next we have the new Deputy Police Chief, Nate Buffington. The Buffington name lives on in this town.
So with me being promoted to chief, this left obviously the vacancy for deputy chief. At my request, the select board and the town manager approved me to promote Detective Sergeant Nathan Buffington to the new deputy police chief. So Nate has grown up in Plymouth. He received his education in Plymouth, made many positive relationships in the community. Nate's been a police officer since 2005 and has been a supervisor since 2014. So with Deputy Chief Buffington's work ethic and work knowledge, we complement each other very well. Deputy Chief Buffington will assist me in leading this department with respect, integrity, and professionalism for years to come. Congratulations.
Careful there.
Don't pin him too hard, Mom.
I'm over here now.
Wait, I'm still over here. Thank you. Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you give us a minute, we could probably clear up some people.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you don't want to stick around for the approval of POs.
It's in, okay. Congratulations, Alex.
Should we remove the caution tape?
We can take that down
His grandfather was a mailman for many years.
I thought he was a cop.
Oh, his father was.
Oh, okay.
Grandfather was a mailman. He's probably still alive because he walked all around town.
Is it hot or am I just?
Yeah,
having
no,
a
it's
hot?
hot.
It's hot.
I'm glad you're doing that because it's coming this way. too.
Still summer.
Doing it. There you go.
Wait, we can turn on that fan.
Take it.
That fan's dead.
Oh,
Is it?
I guess so. It's not working. Switch for it?
probably.
We could use it.
There's probably a switch in the back, actually. There used to be a switch in the back of the room.
Yeah.
Sort of secret switch.
Yeah, they had a pretty good smash 'em up there,
Oh, yeah?
right in front of Crescent Street.
Okay. Huh.
Fire truck, ambulance, police, yeah, tow trucks.
All right, we're approaching, we can't do much. We gotta do a public hearing at 4.
That was nice.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah,
Why can't they always be like this, yeah? Then we're gonna adjourn.
laughing and, yeah, right. Didn't we have one recent? No, I guess we did. Never mind. Oh, we did.
What, a nice meeting? Or
Yeah,
It's been a while, I think.
we do. We need lots of room, apparently.
Yeah, I usually grab a lot of room, but. So, hey. All right, it's kind of quieting down.
Have the notice of the public hearing?
I
to
found
read?
it and I grabbed it, and
Okay.
there's nothing much to say about it, but, okay. Yeah, but do we have the fee schedule and stuff, or what? Or
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, it's in there.
It should have been behind it.
Right,
Is there handouts in the back of this?
towards the end. Maybe at the end even.
Not mine.
Oh, yeah, it is at the end. I don't have to go through the fee schedule though, right?
Every single line.
I'm delegating the chairdom to Mary Ann. who's the,
I forgot my glasses.
Sitting there with your glasses on, but you
Oh,
can still say
yeah,
that.
this is true.
All right, so, actually, Scott, is there an emergency management update or discussion?
Just real quick though, is that we received notification today that our new hazard mitigation plan that we've been working on since back in May was approved by Homeland Security, Emergency Management, and FEMA. So on the 25th, I'll be bringing that forward to you for full approval by the board of the new plan. And then additionally, on the 25th, we'll be bringing some information to you with regards to the Loon Lake Road project that we had submitted for back in 2018. We met with Homeland Security Emergency Management today and have a few things that we think the board needs to make some decisions on how we move forward with regards to that project. Other than that, that's all I have.
Okay. Anything specific, what's the project on Loon Lake Road that?
The flooding is to
Okay,
raise the
yep.
roadway and the culvert. And Ann and Kathy and Joe and June and myself and Colleen met with representation from Homeland Security Emergency Management, actually the mitigation planning coordinator, on how we possibly best could move forward with resubmitting or continuing on with the current grant that we have in place. But hopefully by the 25th, we'll have some additional information for you and be able to present that to you.
Very good, okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Okay, so we got 40 seconds. Close enough?
I mean, according to that clock.
Okay. I don't trust that clock, but that's okay. It's, if you round up, then it's 5:15. So it's 5:15. I'm opening our public hearing on proposed amendments to the fees associated with the applications to the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Adjustment and building permit applications. The town of Plymouth Board of Selectmen welcomes all to this public hearing on proposed amendments to the fees associated with the applications to the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Adjustment and building permit applications. And at this time, I'll take public comment, either for or against the proposed amendments. Is there any input? Or actually, June, perhaps, would you provide just overall indication of why we're going forward with these at this time?
Hi, so I was here a few weeks ago that we went over the initial proposal for this, and so basically I'm pretty sure the fees have not been changed since 2001, so 20 years. So I think it's time that the town revise some fees. What we're recommending, based on review of neighboring towns, similar communities, and what are trying to make sure that any applicants still are kind of within a cost that's reasonable, but yet we do need to think about kind of recouping some of the expenses that the town incurs. So the building permit fees, the biggest change is just charging a minimum application fee of $35 for residential and $50 for non-residential commercial. So that will be a sort of a base fee, and then $10 a square foot beyond that. There's a few other kinds of aspects that's for renovations, and then for new construction, it'd be 30 per square foot for residential and 20 for commercial, with a $100 application fee. So there's a little bit of a adjustment there, but having that base fee ensures that the town is at least getting a certain amount of money to help cover the cost of managing the application permitting process. For the planning board and zoning board side, the biggest adjustment again is charging an application fee of $500 for site plan review and $500 for subdivisions, and then an adjustment in the site plan review applications from a fee of 10 cents a square foot for non-residential construction to actually changing it to 5 cents per square foot of area disturbed, because that's a better calculation and a lot of communities use for determining what that site plan impact really is. Because the planning board's more concerned about the site, so by looking at it as square foot disturbed, you're picking up more of the parking lot, driveway, that kind of drainage, other kind of site costs. And sometimes you can have a very small building where just so much per square foot as it is currently, sometimes we don't gain a lot. Or the flip side is we could get a lot, and that exceeds kind of what's really reasonable for the town. So we also are proposing a maximum of $4,000 for that. Design review would be $100. Subdivision application fee, $500, and then $100 per lot for a major subdivision and $50 per lot for a minor, which would be up to 3 lots with frontage on existing streets. Conditional use permits, we currently don't charge anything. They have to go to the planning board. And that would be $200, and then raising abutter notice fees up to $10 because the cost of certified mail has gone up. Public notices in the newspaper, those costs have gone up. Those are real bills we have to pay. So that's the general kind of aspect to it. And then the zoning board is raising it to $250 per application fee and the same notice fees.
All right.
Questions?
Not for me. So, are there any comments, either for or against the proposed amendments? Are there any comments from the board?
Do we vote on this after the hearing? Does this have to go to the warrant? What's the process on changing the fees?
You just vote on it.
So we'll
as a
vote on it
board
tonight.
after you've taken public comment at this public hearing. Yep.
Okay, in that case, it is 5:19. I'm closing the public hearing, bringing it back to the board. So I guess we're going to have to take a vote on this. Are there any further comments from the board, or is there a motion?
Make a motion, we accept the application fees proposed.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
All of the fees or just the application fees?
All of the fees.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion, or any discussion? Considering the length it's been since we last had our fee changes, and this is making things more clear and fair. So, in that case, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Very good. Do I?
Do those go into effect immediately?
I would think.
June is shaking her head yes.
Okay.
There you go.
That's right.
Did you hold
Get
up
your
on a bunch of
application in
applications?
Mike Vignali will have stuff on your desk downstairs.
So there's nothing to sign, though. We don't have any, okay. Got it. Okey-doke. We have some purchase orders at this point. And the first PO is Joe Fagnan, DA White Excavating LLC, Drainage Improvements to Bartlett Road, for $10,000.
So I have an opportunity to turn some drainage into money to further the project. So this money will take care of some of the drainage, and I'll be able to add more length in the road. So because of the grant is funding this.
So this is for 155 feet, or?
No, I'm not sure how many feet it's gonna be, but he hasn't calculated it, but he has a quota, but I kinda have to wait to make sure this is approved, and then he has a calculation of money times feet, so.
So will it go beyond 10 grand?
Yeah, well, it'll be
That's the upper limit, right?
Up to $10,000.
up to $10,000 worth of more road construction because of adding this, getting this grant. Just pays for the drainage, and then I get to add more length on the road.
These are from the ARPA funds.
Yep, I see, that's a note that, where was that note?
So this
Oh,
is
yeah.
this is a proposed use of the ARPA funds?
It is. Yep.
Okay, is there any questions or comments?
Does that get you down the steep slope before the mill? Well, right now, we rounded the corner, you can probably a stone throw from the mill road. This might possibly get us to the mill road, so. That money doesn't go very far in footage with gravel and stuff, but it's still, whatever it is, it's in forward motion, so.
And the road was closed today, and when I drove by it, and they were already compressing the material. It's so it's already dug down 20 inches and filled it back in, and now.
Well, they dig out like 100 feet, and then they fill it back in,
Yeah, okay,
and then go another 100 feet, fill it back in.
so we can be done in a week? No, I'm only kidding.
When is your
It'd be
estimate?
nice.
Well, the 31st is the target on the sign, at least, road closure, but.
Well, we just put a date out there that we're projecting that at the end of the month, we'll be in good shape to open it up. It will be travelable, but we'll have to wait and see about the paving part of it, schedule that.
Right. Okay.
Have they found anything unusual in the process of box cutting the road?
Not yet. I mean, there's some sections has a lot of rocks, and other sections it doesn't, but you can see the various layers of, we put pug mill on there at one time, and then we did we did a couple different layers of different stuff, and so by the time you're done, there's like 8 inches or so of different materials that we've used over the years, and so.
Interesting.
Can you salvage any of it?
We're just saving the asphalt because I couldn't grind it because it was too many rocks. The people who grind frown on having a lot of rocks. It just beats their machine up. So I opted they were just pulling the asphalt and taking it down to our stockpile. And then the rest, they're hauling off and to a local site. And so it's a win for everybody.
Okay, now, so you moved? Did you make a motion?
I did not.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve this purchase.
Okay.
10,000.
All right, Neil moves, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mary Ann seconds, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Zach, did you vote at all?
I didn't, I abstained.
Thank you.
All right, I'm sorry, I should have asked. All right, Alex Hutchins, Motorola Solutions, radios and programming.
Do you want to sign?
PRHS.
Haven't seen you in a while.
I know, right?
Bartlett Road. Every dollar we spend there is wasted.
So this purchase order is for new portable radios from Motorola, and they work with our police radio system, but they're going to be deployed to the Plymouth Regional High School for interoperability purposes, so we can communicate between high school staff and the police in our dispatch center in case of an emergency. So their radios actually get programmed, so there's emergency buttons on top of the radios that instantly go to our dispatch center in case of an emergency. And these are special type of radios. These aren't the generic radios that the school usually uses. These are actually police radios that we will deploy in the school, but the school is going to reimburse me for these radios. I'm the one that would like them in the schools, but they're going to reimburse me. There should be a purchase order already attached from the schools saying that they're going to reimburse us for them. And the reason that I am purchasing them is because the police department can get state contract pricing, so it's cheaper.
Very good.
Any maintenance cost on these, Alex?
So I think Motorola gives you a 5-year warranty on them. So the PD, we've already bought the programming software. So if there's any adjustments, I can reprogram the radios. They already have radios in the school that can talk to us, but they're old and obsolete.
old, yeah.
So the technology has changed, and they're just a better radio.
And the school, if there's replacement down the line, the school has in the past replaced their
Oh yeah,
radios,
absolutely.
so-
And like I said, the reason I'm purchasing them and not them is because I can
You
get a
get the
state,
contract. You get the
state
price.
contract bid price. And yeah, they've already authorized to reimburse me for it, so.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I'll make a motion to accept the purchase order for $6,740.92 that will be reimbursed by the SAU 48.
All right.
Second.
Zach moved, Neil seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, nay.
Abstain.
Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
You. Sign that one too. Anna Bear, the Tulip Construction, PRHS sewer line and drainage repair.
You're on. Oh, Pete. Sorry. All right, so what you have in front of you is the sewer line and drainage repair behind Plymouth Regional High School that the board had approved during the public hearing that we used the ARPA funds for. It's $138,000, and that will be payable to Emmy Tulip Construction. There should be a copy of the bill on the back of that purchase order. The board can see that.
And this is what we okayed as one of the
Okay,
projects.
yep. We got the amount ahead of time, and they told us what it was, and this is what we presented as part of the ARPA funds.
Are we being reimbursed by water and sewer?
No.
Nope.
No.
This is, we're putting ARPA funds toward that. I mean, the ARPA funds would include projects that would normally come under water and sewer.
And they can't apply for the grant, or they don't get any reimbursement for the grant,
Okay.
so as part of the
Okay.
No, it's water, sewer, drainage, and internet.
broadband.
Broadband, yeah.
Yep.
Infrastructure.
Very limited what you can do with the money, so.
Any other discussion, or is there a motion?
Side note, keeping track of how we're doing on the ARPA funds, I know I'm certain you're doing an excellent job. It's gonna be very difficult for us to keep track if
As the
you-
purchase orders come through, I will come up with a number that we have left,
Yeah,
so
that would
that you'll
be
see those.
super
Okay.
helpful. It's easy tonight because there's two. We can add them together.
First two, yeah.
Thank you.
What did we start with then?
You actually had 718,000. We've only gotten half of it so far.
Okay.
So you're not expending any cash that you don't have so far.
When's the other half?
I think it's not until next year.
Call it a tranche
Yeah.
for some reason.
But we have until 2025 to spend it, so projects came first.
Dumb question. So if we already created the room in our budget to expend, but we don't have the money, can we still kind of like contract for it and, okay.
Yes.
All right. Is there a motion?
I move to approve this $138,000 contract with M.E. Latula.
All right.
Second.
Neil moves, Zach seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Next, Jesse Jennings. CM Witcher Excavation LLC accept bid and approve purchase order for drainage and grading work at recycling center.
He's on.
$12,547.75.
Good evening.
Hey, Jesse.
So in front of you, you should have 4 bids. This is a sealed bid that we did last Friday. You should have one from CM Witcher Excavation for $12,547.75. Utility construction for $25,700. The RM Piper, $31,920. And one from Triple Construction for $59,636. So the work that was bid on was for drainage and grading of the back area of the transfer station. This past winter, when it had rained after the snowfall, we had a massive washout towards our back area into our metal pile, and we are not allowed to have that by DES rules. So I had brought this attention during the town meeting, which have monies approved for that project through the bond hearing. My recommendation would be to go with Witcher Excavation. I spoke with him. He understands the scope of work and what is needed to do this project. I also asked for references from Chris Witcher. All his references came back that he does great work as far as excavation and grading, and that his crew is very well trained to do this type of work. Also, it is the lowest amount on the bid.
Normally not attached the other bids?
They're all attached.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Gotcha, thank you.
Jesse, what was budgeted in the bond for this project?
$100,000.
Just this component of the project?
Right. It was to do the drainage from probably, let me see here, approximately 260 feet of drainage. And then they're also gonna redo the swale for it, put fabric down, erosion rock, so that way the water flows nicely to the culvert, or I'm sorry, to the head wall. And then a precast construction head wall would be put in, and about 160 feet of 18-inch piping to get those waters to have that water diverted away from the metal pile. And then the third part of that project is we're recrushing all that glass that's stockpiled down back, using it as a sub base, which that company would grade out. I'm sorry, the company that's doing all the drainage would grade all that out, which would raise the height of that table by a couple feet, so that way it makes sure all that water drains out appropriately, and it doesn't. We don't have an issue like we did last winter. And then ledge pack being brought in, packed down, so that way we have a really good surface to work on from now on. The glass crushing is in my second quote. If you would like, I can roll into that one, or would you like to stay with this one first?
Probably just.
It's a multi-bit product.
I think we should stick with this one first, but.
Yeah, but just so that I'm following, the $100,000 estimate would have been the combined cost of these two purchase orders?
No, it is.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that 100,000 was to get rid of that pile of glass that you had back there as well.
I'm sorry, yes, it is.
Yes.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Also, it looks like Witcher Excavation can finish the job faster than anybody else.
Quick question there, Jesse. So in this quote to crush the glass, we're not actually getting rid of it. We're keeping it.
No, we're using it.
This project, is it taking runoff from the building and the parking lot?
No, it's actually from the back side of the hill.
So you have an open trench feeding into a head wall with an 18-inch pipe that's going to run down to the brook.
Yes.
Do you have a wetlands permit?
I'm not aware that we needed one.
Anytime you channel water into a jurisdictional wetland, you need to have a wetlands permit.
It's already, the drainage has already been established. It was already there before I got there.
In a pipe, you increase the velocity. And do you have any kind of discharge control at the end of the pipe?
No, sir.
I'm not sure that this project is right in its current form.
If it is not, I'm not aware that we needed a wetlands permit.
That this contract is complete.
So would Witcher be the contract? I mean, all the contractors should have the opportunity to price it out with a wetlands permit to include.
Right.
Yeah.
How about we bring it back in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, Jesse, we'll come back in 2 weeks.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sure, about the permits, and we'll bring it back in 2 weeks for approval.
Okay, I'll definitely check into it. I'm not aware that the recycling center was in the wetlands zone.
And you want to partner the glass crushing as well? for this? And
Yes.
bring them both back in 2
Yes.
weeks? Okay.
On the topic of the glass crushing, 6 months ago, something like that, we considered the purchase of a glass crusher of our own, and then some major maintenance event came up at the recycling center. I think it was the garbage compactor. We ended up not spending the money on the glass crusher. If the math is right here, and we've got $100,000 budgeted, and we're estimating a cost of $42,000. Now, there certainly could be permit costs in addition. Should we be seriously reconsidering the purchase of a glass crusher in the context of this instead of contracting that out right now?
I have to say that the glass crusher itself was like, what, 65 grand or something like that? And then, the hammers have a life, a termination of like 5 years or something like that. You have to replace the hammers, and so it's a real kind of.
We're going to have to crush glass every year.
No,
Not this much.
no, we
Never
got.
this much. True, we're behind right now
Oh,
in a way that we.
I don't know how many decades of glass we've got, sitting there, but, it's a big pile, and if we can get rid of it for 30 grand, we'll be golden for a while. True, Jesse?
Yes, if we can get rid of all the glass that's currently there at the station. Right, it's just that we can't keep on stockpiling it anymore, which I have, which goes into my budgeting for next year of getting rid of glass appropriately.
So what's the annual cost of basically dealing with the glass each year instead of this, as opposed to this stockpile?
Honestly, I really couldn't give you an answer on that. I budgeted $10,000. So,
How long have we accumulated all this glass that you're crushing for 30,000?
I would say 2 decades plus.
20 years.
So, doing quick math, it's
$1,500 a year.
it's not huge.
He's talking about budgeting 10,000 a year. So has it accelerated in recent years, and in past years we just didn't
I
have
think
as much?
part of that $10,000 was assuming he was having to ship it out.
Right.
And if we're not going to ship it out and we're going to use it as aggregate, then
We're only going to use it as aggregate if we buy a glass crushing machine, which just brought us back full circle.
No, but this company, this Northeast Resource Recovery Association, they do this with a lot of like municipalities where they'll take the crusher and they'll park it at the municipality when we have enough glass to crush, and then we'll crush our glass and they'll move it to the next municipality.
So what we're saying is that when Jesse puts $10,000 in his budget during budget review in 4 weeks or whenever we're doing budget review, we're all going to scrap that line item because that's not what we're going to do.
What else is in that line item, Jesse, besides glass crushing? Anything?
It's no, it's not about glass crushing. It's just getting rid of glass.
And Bill's suggestion is that we hold our glass for 20 years and deal
No,
with it in
not 20, not
$30,000
20.
increments?
How about like 5 years or something like that? Yeah.
So
$6,000 increments.
It's illegal.
But we're not shipping this out.
Oh, we'll probably not get a bill for 30,000 again, because this is like 2 decades worth of glass for 30,000. So, if we hold, Jesse's saying we shouldn't have, DES doesn't want to see glass sitting on a pile for, I shouldn't say it with a representative hanging around here, but, so, we had a pile of glass, and theoretically, if we comply with DES rules, if we move that pile different areas every year, we'd be complying with their rules. But we're not going to do that.
No, I would much rather comply with the spirit of the rule instead of the.
So if we are able to, maybe park the glass for a few years, and then just utilize, and, Northeast Resource Recovery Association, that's what they're in the business for.
Keep that glass for 2 years.
Okay,
So why have we waited
we
20
can't.
years, Jess?
Money.
Yeah.
So what would it cost to have Northeast Glass, or whatever they are called, come back in 2 years and crush whatever we have likely on the ground?
I don't know if they would. So But this mobile crusher only goes to 2 sites. The only reason why they're coming to us is because we have so much glass.
So my point only in all of this is that there's a significant disconnect between what our recycling manager is saying his strategy is and what our chairman is saying he would like the strategy to be, and it's going to come at a head in the budget. We should probably figure that out while we've got all of this money and resources flowing around, rather than waiting and being confused and going back to the town and asking them to buy a crusher or pay $10,000 a year or whatever it's going to be.
What we need to do is figure out what makes the most business sense to have a crusher that we have to buy and
Buy
then
and
maintain, or ship the glass out every year. What is the cost to ship it out
What's the
versus
cost
to buy and maintain? Because the glass crusher itself, I'm going to assume it has a lifetime of so many years. Let's just say 10 for the sake of argument.
It's probably longer, being
Actually, I
industrial
think
equipment.
Ted's pushing it because you have to replace the hammers. And we kind of like did some research on this before
We were right on the verge of signing this when
it got pulled.
I got pulled.
I would like to interrupt real quick. The argument was several months ago when I brought this glass crusher up to you guys was that the use of it. How are we going to use it? Because just because I crush glass on site doesn't mean that it goes away. And that's the issue.
Joe or someone could then take that material and use it somewhere else to reduce other costs in town.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So the question is, do you have an arrangement with Joe to use that?
Well, there's two questions. Do we have that arrangement figured out? And what's the actual cost that we're talking about? And should we be making that investment now rather than having to come back to the town and ask to spend it later? Because theoretically, we have the money.
So do you have the data that shows us the costs with and without sending it out?
I can tell you if it's not with me. No, I do not.
Get to us for next
When we
time?
bring the we review these POs next time.
Well, I'm bringing up POs for one item. Now, is the board wanting me to bring up the glass crusher again? For another
Suggesting, Jesse, is that if you've got $100,000 of money set aside, and right now you've got $42,000 of cost against that $100,000 budgeted, then suddenly you might have the $60,000 to purchase your glass crusher and solve this problem long term.
Correct. The only stipulation is that I need to find a use for it.
Yes.
I just want to say too, just because we have $100,000 doesn't mean we need to expend it all. And when we were looking at glass crushers before, it was like limited life because it's a pretty, rough thing to crush glass and whatever else gets mixed in with the glass stream. So the hammers and such break down after like a few years or 5 years or something. So it's a maintenance issue. Plus you have to build a building. To house the crusher. It would seem like a lot of like ancillary expenses for something that if we can get rid of the 2-decade-old glass pile and then minimize how much glass we have to deal with on either a yearly or bi-yearly basis, it wouldn't necessarily justify 65 grand to buy a crusher and then another 20 to build a house. And
I'm with you right up until the point where we approve a budget line item that's $10,000 a year to dispose of glass.
I would agree with that too. I don't think we need to do $10,000 a year. Honestly, in fact, you were saying it's like
We need to
every 2
understand, we
years.
need to understand what that real cost is. Can you get us a quote?
The $10,000 is just an estimate. I'm not saying that it's going to be $10,000 every year to get rid of glass. It is an estimate. And the way that I got that estimate was calling a neighboring town because they do the exact same thing. They put all their glass containers into a can, which is then shipped up to Littleton through where they have a glass crushing plant, and that's where it gets crushed and disposed of. I believe it gets sold to a Canadian company. They use it as fiberglass insulation.
So Jesse,
Yes.
do you have an estimate of how much glass that the town of Plymouth produces each year?
I did at one point when I proposed the glass crusher initially.
Estimate of how much we produce in a year, wouldn't it be pretty straightforward to call this facility and say, how much does it cost for us to ship you X amount of glass and have it taken care of?
Yes.
So then we would have an annual cost that we could balance against buying a crusher.
Yes.
So we can say, okay, over the course of 10 years, we're going to spend this much if we send it out, or if we buy this crusher, it'll cost this amount. And I think that's what we're really looking at. We're looking to make sure that
Yes.
whatever option we choose, it's really the best option.
Not just right now, but long term.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're not going to go through with the glass crushing at all.
Next time, you're going to get us the information we need to make the right decision.
We need to know about the wetlands permits before we can approve either of these purchase orders.
Okay.
I have nothing further for the board.
Okay.
Okay.
That's something further for me.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
All right, June Hammond Rowan. Update on Riverside land and conservation easements.
Hello again. So, did you see the memo that I wrote about the conservation easements? Hoping you have a copy.
I don't think so.
Sent it.
I didn't see any of it.
I wrote a 2.5-page memo. Let me try to summarize then where things are at. You've heard me talk about this before. So, I wonder if I should just run down and make copies of it. But so I'm here tonight to give another update about the Riverside Landing conservation easements. So the next phase of development of Riverside Landing involves filling an area to create a buildable site. It's going to impact 55,560 square feet of wetlands. New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services issued a wetlands permit in December 2020, and it had multiple pages and conditions, but one of which was conservation interest to be acquired for 2 neighboring parcels. March 2021, Planning Board granted site plan review approval with conditions including review of the easements and seeing them, and then having also the town's attorney review the easements because the town has to close on these conservation easements deed. As I mentioned before, the purpose of these is wetlands mitigation for the damage. Basically the development will impact the 55,560 square feet of wetlands, so DES requires mitigation of that. So the developer chose to proceed ahead with looking at conservation easements. I've done a lot of research on this. There's several different options that could have happened, but back in March of 2020, the select board, I found minutes of that meeting where the staff had presented to obtain a final decision on if the town would agree to accept donation of 2 parcels adjacent to Riverside Landing as a conservation easement. These would be conservation parcels and would include some funding for same. Trusts are available for ongoing maintenance of these parcels. And then the select board made a motion and approved and unanimously voted following that path. And then 2 days later, an email was sent to Mike McGinley of Riverside Landing, just reiterating that the board had unanimously agreed to accepting the easement on those 2 parcels. So I know that we've had a lot of discussion about trails and different things, but that's what the record says. And the purpose of these easements is to protect and offset, basically, through protecting neighboring parcels, to offset the wetland habitat in those areas. There was another option that an applicant when at the time of a wetlands permit, the developer could pay a fee to the state's Aquatic Resource Mitigation Fund, but because of the discussion, the choice was made to follow that path to do the easements on the neighboring parcels. So Planning Board talked about this on October 7th last week, reviewed again the easements. I had sent a copy of the easement deed, but I guess you haven't had a chance to look at it. But the board had looked over the conservation easement. It's basically the same document for both parcels, and they decided at the meeting on the 7th that the easements met the terms of their condition of approval for the site plan. All right, so now the next step is for the select board to review the conservation easement deeds, see if you find them in general acceptable, and then we'll have the town's attorney do a legal review of them before the town formally accepts these and signs off on the easement deeds. We could have John Radigan, the attorney, do it now, but if you are really unhappy with the terms of the easements, there's no point in having him review it until the select board says, hey, they look okay. And then after that, there does still need to be a final review of the easements by Department of Environmental Services, is my understanding. And they've told me also Army Corps of Engineers and possibly the Attorney General's office for the state because of the nature of what these documents are. So there's still, and then prior to closing, we would still need to get $5,000 for monitoring of each parcel, $5,000 per parcel, and have that set up in a specific account. I've talked to Ann about that previously. We'd need revised baseline documents for each parcel, and then a stewardship plan for how the owner intends to manage these parcels going forward. So we get all that. The state's aware of that. I've been talking to them. So if you don't have the easement deeds in front of you, it's probably, my suggestion would be that you read them over, we can get them to you, and then make some decision as to what direction you want to go, if you want to accept them or another alternative. But from the planning board's point of view, it meets the site plan review condition, so they're ready to sort of say that. I mean, the select board has to accept the easement deed ultimately. So if you have concerns about them, I think it's going to have to become the select board talking to DES and the developer about any other options for it. And the developer is here tonight too, so.
Okay. Actually, I wouldn't mind just kicking off discussion since we do have the developer here. And I know, I think from the inception, we kind of anticipated or we hoped that we were going to be able, through the efforts of the Conservation Commission and I think basically the town, as far as the ability to have like a hiking trail that was going to go along the river, the Baker River. And we were theoretically going to be going from the town gardens up through the road that's currently maintained by water and sewer, and then go through the easement that is being built, or at least the targeted easement of a parking lot on the new development with a path that goes down to the Baker River with a path that goes along the Baker. And I guess our desire, anticipation was that path would continue across that easement that the Claybrook runs through, and then hook up with other properties to ultimately go to Smith Bridge. There's a lot of conditions or ifs, but I think that was the initial intent of where the Conservation Commission and what the town wanted to do with that property. And I do realize that DES indicated that you shall not build a footpath across that easement, but I think there may be exceptions made. At least that's what I was hoping, that we might be able to discuss an exception or work with DES to target a path that wouldn't degrade or interfere with any fragile species, or and not going to the mouth of the river but back farther. So in any event, that's my concern about approving the the easement the way it's currently written. And I think we've had expressions similar to, like, the chair of the Conservation Commission, Lisa Donor, and I don't know if any other board member wants to discuss that. Unfortunately, we don't have it sitting in front of us, but I think we're pretty much familiar with what the language kind of says, so.
Yeah, it certainly was my understanding as well. When looking at the long-term strategic plan, which includes trying to connect Smith Bridge to the community gardens with some sort of pedestrian path, it feels like accepting these easements as they're written takes that long-term plan and sort of throws it out the window. And I definitely feel for the developer when we're having this conversation now and so much time and attention has been put in, but conservation easements are a forever thing, right? This is not oh, it delays our plans 10 years, oh, it delays our plans 20 years. It's, oh, those plans can never happen kind of decision. And I think that would be pretty unfortunate.
I think we need to have some kind of a agreement that we can have a trail, so we can connect it, because that's our long-term goal.
So the conditions of the wetlands permit say that they're going to have these easements. And I've talked to Lori Summer again on October 4th, and she's from DES. I think maybe perhaps the board should have a discussion with her, or the town manager could, because I guess my job is really looking with the planning board and the conditions of the site plan review approval. The board felt that the current process that's being presented met the conditions of approval because it meets the terms of the wetlands permit. All right, so now they're asking, so the next step is really for this board to get ready to sign these easements. If you're not happy with them, that's fine, but I want to make it clear that you're going to have to work that out with the developer. I mean, he has just gotten his alteration of terrain permit. I think I haven't talked tonight to him about just exactly what his timeline is. There's still some work to do on these easements in terms of the returnees review, final review by the state, maybe an Army Corps of Engineers, but hopefully that in a few weeks this board could sign them if you were ready to do that. And again, the record showed that you basically said that you would do that without putting stipulations in the minutes. So if that's a change, that's fine, but I just want to make it clear that I think the select board is going to have to work that out with the developer and perhaps DES to really understand what the terms of these easements are. So
What if we can't get what we want from DES?
Still,
I mean, yes, we had planned on it.
right. I mean, there's still a couple of options on the table too, for that matter, but we don't need to accept the easement.
Right.
then I think then the terms of the wetlands permit can't be met. So therefore they can't get, he won't be able to, it's a condition of the wetlands permit, not just the site plan review. So it would jeopardize the wetlands permit for this.
Yeah, it jeopardizes development of that entire area.
Yeah.
We may need to have a hearing with the Wetlands Bureau.
If that's the path you want to take, then fine, but.
Is that a long path, I'm assuming?
I don't know. I'm not, I'm not entirely certain what they would say or how soon we could arrange that. Even just to try to talk to their staff, it takes a week or so to schedule a meeting and kind of, I mean, I understand what the town intended, but it just didn't, that stipulation didn't seem to follow through properly in the requests, in the discussions back in 2020, for whatever reasons, in 2020.
Well, maybe I'm not aware of all the conversations that went on, but, from the get-go, even when Chris Buckley was still alive, and we were also looking at, the possibility of like a bridge across Clay Brook. I mean, I guess the assumption back then, at least through the Conservation Commission and, the person whose honor we were respecting by accepting this easement, we thought that we were going to have a path that would go through that easement. So I'm thinking it's worth a shot to negotiate with DES. I don't want to obviously throw the whole development out the window, but I want to make this the last-ditch effort to make sure that our desires are met through DES, I guess, negotiation, as long as the developer is not in opposition to, seeing a path that goes through there. Maybe it's just putting too many people through that area that is not desirable. But I'm thinking from a town whose value is having an ecotourism goal, that would be consistent with that, so.
So my suggestion, if you want to pursue that, I guess I would feel more comfortable in having the town manager, maybe a couple of the select board members, getting together with DES, talking with the staff there to see, reading the easements. I had provided them, but I guess you didn't get them, and reading them over, understanding what the purpose of the easements are. The conservation purposes is clearly stated right in section 1, use limitations in section 3, reserved rights, exceptions to the uses, that kind of thing. So once you start to read that and you understand that the actual conservation, this is again a different type of conservation easement than a recreationally based one. And DES sets this up as part of the wetlands permit. So if you want to change that or try to get the changes, which I've already asked multiple times for, and the answer has been no, but go ahead and have that conversation. I think that would be a good exercise for the board to understand. And you have more of the history. I wasn't here, so I don't know if you want to push that, and great, and meet with the representative from Riverside Landing and have a good conversation about it, to get all the information and hear it straight from them and take it from there with the documents in front of you and understanding, reading through the deeds. But until then, it's going to be kind of on hold. He's gotten his alteration. I mean, this has been going on for months, and a lot of time I've spent looking into it. And again, it's more from the planning board process on that site plan review and understanding and trying to get those pieces. Because the board asked for the same thing, but they've understood that, hey, this is what the terms of it are. So that's what they talked about on the 7th, last Thursday. So.
Yeah, I do want to just remind all of us that we're talking about timeframes that are months and years, and they feel long. But we're talking about a conservation easement that's forever, right? It's a decision for this piece of land that will retain as long as the United States exists, right? In perpetuity.
Which is a long time.
So I don't want to delay a development. We want economic development in this town. We want businesses to be built. We want all of that. But if making the right decision about a piece of land that's going to be forever delays this, it might have to delay this, and that's unfortunate, but it might be the reality.
But how long are we going to delay it? Do we have a time? It just seems like June's gone through the process and asked
purely from my
numerous
perspective,
times.
Mary Ann, I mean, purely from where I sit, I wouldn't vote to accept this. Like, if we put this to vote tonight and said, should we accept this easement, I would say no, it's not in the best interest of the town. It's in the best interest of the town in the short term to help get a development in an area, increase our tax base short term. But it makes a long-term negative impact on how we want to use land in this town, and therefore I wouldn't support it. And so that's, from my perspective, where I'm at, is that as written, as approved, I don't support this because it's not the right long-term solution for the town, even if it is the right short-term solution.
And I think we should say that now, as opposed to going through the process with DES that June's been going through. That
Unless
seems like
there
at
is
least
something
a
we
year,
can do
if
with
not longer.
DES to fix it, right? Like, if there's something we can say to DES to fix this, then that would be great. I would love to resolve the conflict and let the development proceed. I wouldn't love to let the development proceed and accept that our vision for this piece of the town is never.
I'm just hoping to find a middle ground somewhere in all that.
I think we need to meet with DES.
Yeah, I think the quicker, we can set up that meeting, obviously the better. And then we'll be handed, no, you cannot change this, or yes, we can negotiate a modification. And yeah, but if we can meet with them quickly, I don't know if it would require a hearing, maybe not, but
I think we
So-
should talk to him soon.
Yeah, set up a meeting with Lori Summer there.
What's her name?
Is it Lori Summer?
Yeah, I can get the contact.
SOMMER.
So within that agreement, there's also the ability for wildlife management, you can build a road. And as long as it's used for wildlife management, you can have a road through, but, so, there are some quirks to that language.
You should have some kind of access for fire and rescue, and it could double over.
In any event, I guess so who wants to be on a subcommittee to?
Well,
I will.
I want to be on it too.
okay.
Maybe we can call a meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just, whoever wants to be on it, we'll just call a meeting and meet with Lori Summer. And maybe the developer wants to be part of that as well. And also June, but.
Has the developer given you any idea whether or not he is supporting these trails?
I haven't heard from him.
That's an important question.
It is. I don't know if he's prepared, if he would care to answer tonight, or,
Truthfully, not at this time.
pardon me?
Not at this time.
Okay.
And the other question is, possibly we could go back and dictate out the meeting that June was just talking about, that there wasn't clarity,
One
and
in
make
March.
that meeting clear with the understandings from the board. Maybe it was just a synopsis that was done instead of an actual dictation, and that might help as well. I don't know if we can see what it says.
Yeah, sure. Okay,
All right, thanks.
thank you. Thanks, Jim. Lisa Ash, she's gone.
I think she's online, though.
Oh, she
She
is?
said she was gonna be.
Oh, yeah, she's there. Okay.
I see.
Lisa?
She was here.
Yep, you wanted to talk about the 2021 Halloween events? Oh, you're on, Lisa, are you there? You're on mute and your video's off.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the Halloween discussion?
Sure, so did you all get the flyer that we circulated?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and that just is what we've done, years prior. The PYC, they're looking at offering just little scenes and not doing the up close in the actual haunted house, but more like a scene thing, windows and doors all open, and people would walk through maybe under a 5 or 6 minute time frame. And then the businesses, quite a few businesses have reached out to me asking if we can bring that back, and they're prepared to be outside of their businesses. And then, of course, Alex, usually the police mandate the trick-or-treating residents piece to this all. And then I can add what I have been adding the last year and a half that just talks about what's been our history with all our programs out of the starting gate back in when it all happened with COVID. Is, we ask everybody to practice social distancing, mask up if you're less than 6 feet, wash your hands and monitor your symptoms, and we can put that on the bottom of the Halloween flyer if the board seems fit. And it would be consistent to what we've all done with all our other programs.
Okay. Any comments from the board?
I put it out to the businesses on Main Street as far as doing the Main Street, and they were all for it, so.
Alex?
Where to go? Absolutely.
All right.
Scott, how are we doing in terms of elementary and high school COVID numbers?
Last numbers were updated on Friday, the 8th, I believe. We have a meeting with Homeland Security Emergency Management next week with regards to this is one of the questions I was going to ask. I know that There are several cities that have advertised these type of events already and have been approved. And the guidance right now from public health is you should go forward with it because we didn't see any outbreaks last year with the communities that allowed trick-or-treating both in a downtown setting as well as in a residential setting. So I haven't seen the numbers from the school today, and I know there was an uptick last week that we discussed, but our numbers are much lower than where they are across the state. And even today, with the numbers that Jeremy reported of 23 active cases and 35 cases reported in the last 14 days, our numbers have stayed pretty consistent over the past few weeks, although we'll see what happens since the weekend and the events that took place. But right now, I would be comfortable myself with allowing the events that currently take place. I don't know if Tommy is on the meeting, but what's that in? No.
He's not on.
I know when they've held the haunted house inside in the past years, the fire department has reviewed the setting, and I'm sure Jeremy would be willing to do that again. So maybe that's one thing that we should do prior to the haunted house being held, but I think otherwise, I think we're pretty safe to go forward at this time.
What COVID numbers would make you uncomfortable?
I'd really like to talk to public health first to get their opinion, Zach.
So if, for instance, the high school had to shut down and go to remote,
If we went
That'd
remote,
be a
I would have
signal
a
that-
lot of concern with having trick-or-treating.
okay. I just wanted some sort of feel for,
Yeah,
for at what point would
Yeah.
it feel not safe?
Right. I think at that point, if both the elementary school and the high school went remote, I think we'd have some concerns to talk about and discussion to have.
Yeah. So at that point, it would be a signal that they're already trying to mitigate spread. Then that would be a moment to say, let's not have this event.
I would agree.
That seems reasonable.
Have you been,
I think, too, Zach, it might make sense to include that on the flyer and say if things change, this could potentially be canceled, and we could throw around some language, but maybe put it out there, and then as we get closer, we could, amp up whether we're having it or not.
I mean, my gut feeling is if the elementary schools are open and operating, then this doesn't introduce any new risk in particular.
I would agree. And Sunday night, not as many businesses are open on the main street, whether they will open for this purpose, but I think it will give us some distancing amongst the businesses as well of having children in the downtown area.
I had a question. Have you been having any discussions with the university?
On their COVID situation?
Regarding Halloween? And
Not regarding Halloween. I think we need to open some lines of communication with them based on this past weekend. And regards to what they're doing for Halloween, I will say I do monitor their COVID dashboard on a weekly basis. And again, their numbers are low. Their vaccination rate is much higher than what the town of Plymouth is. I think it's 74% today. So I think Marlon is going to join the meeting later.
It's right there.
Well, he's there now. And maybe he'd like to talk about what they're doing as well for Halloween. But that would be my feedback, Zach.
so you'll be coordinating?
I think we have to. We have some things to discuss and coordinate, absolutely.
When's Campus Community Council meet again?
It's like quarterly now, right?
I
CCC?
think as needed.
Okay.
As needed or quarterly, yeah.
I think we might be in as-needed territory.
Okay. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
So Marlon, you're on board.
Do we need to
and-
close out things with Lisa? Or?
Oh, yeah, Lisa, as far as, we've got a few things to kind of discuss, or whether or not we need to modify the, the flyer. But thank you for sharing what we've done so far, and we'll see where we go.
Okay, and just a heads up too, we have promoted trick-or-treating certain dorms at the college, but we did not entertain that this year.
Okay. Yep. It's scary anyway. No, my kids were scared crapless going through the dorms, but anyway. So, thanks, Lisa.
Okay.
All right, Marlon, you want to kick off what you might be doing for, well, Halloween or whatever, but also for the the pirate party that we had this past weekend?
Yeah, Lisa, thank you for the mention of, so in the past, we have encouraged trick-or-treating in the residence halls, and we've actually worked closely to make that happen. We are not permitting that this year because we still have a no outside visitor policy for the residence halls. That's one of our remaining COVID mitigation practices. So right now there are some Sunday night, traditional Sunday night events planned on campus for Halloween, but we have no major events planned. Sunday night tends to be a night when students are coming back from being away for the weekend and that kind of thing. But I am happy to continue conversations. I know in the past we've had some student groups that have participated in some of the things that happened on Main Street, and that's been successful as kind of a town gown thing. I'm happy to have a conversation whether or not we might want to see if some of our student groups might want to be available to be downtown to be of assistance or that kind of thing. From a COVID standpoint, as Scott said, we are at very low numbers. I think we have, right as of today, 13 active cases on campus. Our last full campus testing, we did 4,300 tests and we had 13 positives out of that. Our vaccination rate for residential students is very close to those living in residence halls. It's very close to 80%. Entire student body on and off campus, our vaccination rate is right around 74, 75%. Faculty and staff is in the high 80s. So we're feeling really good about the vaccination rate. We did the clinic last week. I think we had 30 more students that got vaccinated. We'll be doing another one in, I think at the end of October, and another one in mid-November. So we're kind of keeping all of that going. I can tell you that we made a decision this morning, and we'll be announcing this, that we're keeping our indoor mask mandate in place for the semester until December 17th. So we had been looking at that every couple of weeks, but made the decision this morning based on the continued rate of transmission in the county and in the state, and cold and flu season coming, that for us it made sense as a mitigation effort to continue to require masks in all campus buildings and classrooms. So that message will be going out to campus tomorrow, announcing that. So happy to answer any COVID questions before we delve into the weekend events.
Any questions? Go forward.
Great. So as you know, the quote-unquote pirate party happened on Sunday. It was an event that we always hope and work hard to mitigate. It was a very large event this year. We were able to not have it last year because we had very strict COVID-19 protocols in place, and the group gatherings that the state had in place and the town. So successfully last year we were able to actually stop it. We were not able to do that this year. We actually had conversations with the state to see if we could put any of those things in place this year as far as group gatherings, but there was really no COVID mitigation protocols that we could utilize this year. The event itself included, we're estimating anywhere between probably 1,000 and 1,200 students. It went for a very long time, longer than it has in the past, which was not a good thing. I would say that students started to gather between 9:30, and it went on until late in the afternoon, well past 4 o'clock, probably 5 o'clock more likely. I will give great kudos to Alex and his team. who worked very, very hard with Steve Temporino and our university police team, along with campus folks and the landlords. We had a meeting last Thursday where we walked through what the plan was with the landlords, which basically included trying to keep everyone safe and property damage to a minimal. And I would say that in most respects, that was the case. We had 4 arrests related to the actual party. Two of those, all 4 were non-PSU students, so they were visitors who were visiting from outside of the PSU community, which this event attracts a lot of those. So we had 4 events. We had numerous injuries during the day. Most of those were the results of cans and bottles being thrown in the crowd. I will say that I was very disconcerted to know how many on Sunday evening of our students ended up at Spear Hospital at the emergency room. I had 2 conversations Sunday night with the emergency room. So they wanted us to know that they were seeing an influx of students that were highly intoxicated. And that was not acceptable. I think there were a total of 20 ambulance calls related during the day, Sunday and Sunday evening, related to the pirate party. I don't have details on exactly which of those, what those were all for, but that's from our records. And then I will say this, we have the student conduct process is just starting, so obviously, that doesn't happen right away, but I think thus far we've seen about 20 student conduct cases that are going through the student conduct process. That will continue this week as more information, as we identify more students that were in violation of the conduct rules. It is a very difficult situation for us to stop and for us to monitor off campus. This year we did try for the first time, at the suggestion, I think, of the town and local folks, to have some opportunities for some other activities on campus, which we did. They were not nearly as well attended as the actual party was. So we need to rethink that, think about how we might be able to do more to provide some alternatives on campus. We had made the decision a couple of years ago to hold classes on what was traditionally Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day, in a hope that might curtail some of the Sunday behavior if students knew there were classes on Monday. We found a lot of students who went home for the weekend, who would have gone home for the weekend had there not been classes, who stayed in town. So we're re-examining that. Was that something that actually mitigated, or did it hurt because more students stayed here because it wasn't a long weekend? As Bill, you and I have talked over the last couple of days, we are more than willing and want to continue having conversations about how we make this situation better as we look at next year. So I would actually, Zach, I think an as-needed community council meeting might make perfect sense in the next few weeks to kind of literally, as the university and the town, as select board and the community, have a conversation about what happened and what didn't happen and how we might be able to work together to make it better.
Thanks, Marlon.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it true that the Pirate Party is part of a national protest against internet regulation?
No, that I've never heard that at all. In fact, the Pirate Party, I think, has been going on, Neil, longer than the internet regulation issue has even been out there.
Well, I went on Google and that's what I got.
Oh, so I don't know. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. I thought maybe you might know what the seed of this is.
There is a national organization.
The seed of this,
It's not
my
really
understanding, and it's happened before I got here, it's been going on, I think, for at least longer than I've been here, which is 5 years. You know, it was traditionally Columbus Day weekend. It was the chance for students, I think the pirate aspect of it came maybe from Columbus Day. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know where the pirate theme came from. But I can say the last 4 or 5 years, this year included, it has been highly promoted online by Barstool Sports, which is based out of Boston. They, we believe, provide some of the funding for advertising and DJs and that kind of thing. And there is a very active site called Barstool Plymouth, which is the bane of my existence many times, unrelated to this even. I know 3 years ago we made attempts to have a conversation with Barstool Sports, the parent company, which is also owned by one of the big media companies, I think, out of Boston, and we got nowhere with them. They weren't even willing to have a conversation. But Neil, I've never heard that before. I'm happy to do some research and see if that's true. I've never heard that before, though.
Zach says that it might not be related. I'm just groping around trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
We had a hand up from the audience. Bruce, do you have any comments, or?
It started about 2007 over in Homeland. You remember? It was just a bunch of college students who were like, well, we got a long weekend. Let's dress up like pirates and have a party. And it was such a success that it's just continued. It started over at Berman's place at that big blue house across the river, and it's slowly migrated across. So it's been going on for a fair amount of time. But it was not anything other than a college reason to drink on a long weekend.
That's fine, but when it also involves like people from Massachusetts driving up and interstate advertisement of an event, you know.
The person that I tried to stop that day from setting up wasn't a student, had, you know, Plymouth Vegas, which is a Barstool handle, and they were just showing up. He brought his own stuff. Like, he just was looking to make it on social media and have a party. He said, I drove 2 hours to this party. You can't make me move. Okay.
So, Alex, I know you probably need to go to your celebration. So, do you have any comments on?
I don't, and you know, looking forward, we've already had a discussion today, the deputy chief and I, with University Police, and we're going to continue working together for future events like this. So.
Okay. With you said it was Steve or Steve?
Yeah, so it'll be with the University Police with Steve Temperino and Steve LaFave. And obviously we'll work closely with Marlon to come up with some ideas if future events like this happen, so we can maybe get a little bit of better handle on it. So.
Okay. Well, we certainly have enough Steve ex-chiefs and current Steve. So I mean, current chiefs. So anyway, I'm sure we'll be able to communicate very openly, and maybe we can attempt to, you know, get language that we'd all accept and appreciate, and hopefully next year we can probably nip it in the bud. But parties are okay, but when it gets too outrageous and it goes out of campus, then
that was too much.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for sticking around.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Have a good night. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Marlon.
Any other questions for Marlon, or?
Just that we did have one officer that was injured.
Oh, that's right.
The weekend.
Yes, we did. Yeah. That was actually in after the party, I believe, breaking up a fight that was related to the party. So yes.
Correct.
Okay. That's a shame. But all right. Well, thanks a lot, Alex. Thanks, Marlon.
Thank you all.
All right. Now the patient people. We've got Greg Netner, Steve Whitman, Plymouth Conservation Commission to discuss new PCC committee for Plymouth Trails.
Yes.
Here we go.
So lighter content than the last one. Yeah, Steve wasn't able to make it, but I'm Greg Netner from the Plymouth Conservation Commission. And I'm just here to inform the board about a new committee on the PCC that's going to be dedicated strictly to trails and trail management here in town. In the past, PCC has kind of managed the trails on the easements. You're familiar with the Walter Newton trails. Oh yeah, thank you, Kathy, for passing those around. Those are some foundational documents that I want for your reference that we've come up with. So, as I was saying, trails have been managed on a fairly ad hoc basis by the Conservation Commission on our easement lands. The trail up Plymouth Mountain, the trails out Walter Newton area, and East Faubourg. And for some time now, and in fact, it was one of Chris Buckley's ideas that he passed on to me, that it would be great to have a trail czar on the commission, or for that matter, a subcommittee that deals strictly with trail management here in town. And so I've been working with Steve Whitman as well as Greg England, who is an avid hiker and biker here in town, to formulate this committee. And we brought it before the Plymouth Conservation Commission at the last meeting, and it was accepted, and I'd say fairly enthusiastically. Neil, were you there?
I was there.
Yeah, so it was ratified. But I'd like to give you a few bullets about it, and then let you guys question me about it. I don't want to take up too much of your time. And you can read the documents that I prepared for you. But we're talking only non-motorized use. But we are talking about expanding the purview of use of some of the trails anyways, for multi-use, non-motorized use. In the past, the trails on our conservation lands and easement lands have been strictly maintained for hiking, and sometimes that's an easement restriction, and we have to honor that, obviously. But it also is very apparent in town that there's other underserved communities like mountain bikers, Nordic skiers, trail runners, that would also like to use trails here in town. And so one of the ideas of the Penny Baker Trails Commission, which is what we're calling ourselves, is to promote compatible and peaceful multi-use trails where appropriate and where allowed. And I'm not really talking as much about on our conservation easements as potential new projects. That is another thing that we're trying to do, is include private land under agreement, at-will agreement with landowners who work with us to have trails on their lands. And one of the documents I neglected to include there is our landowner agreement. And I've got a copy of that I'll leave with Kathy, and she can get copies off to you. But it's been looked at by the town attorney, and he said it looks fine. We already have a couple landowners on Texas Hill Road that are interested in working with us. One of the things we were looking to do is really expand the network of trails in town, if possible, to create connections between existing trails, and really kind of bring to fruition some of the ideas in the master plan about making Plymouth a bit of a hub for outdoor recreation. And having a group that's responsible for managing those trails, working with landowners, uniform signing standards, uniform maintenance standards, things like that. And also, we're calling ourselves Penny Baker Trails, which is not Plymouth Trails, because we want to encourage other conservation commissions in the area, other towns' conservation commissions, to come up with something similar, to work with us, to create regional connections. We are very definitely a committee of the Conservation Commission here in Plymouth, but we would like to work with other organizations that also promote trails in our region. So that's my spiel. Any questions?
What do you think about the easement on Baker River?
I applaud the board's effort to not leave any stone unturned in trying to get that trail in there. That was part of the meeting where Mike McKinley came to the Conservation Commission to talk about the easement. Chris was there. I believe you were there as well, Bill?
Yes.
And I definitely got the impression that Mike was willing to work with us on that. And I'd hate for the easement to just be, called just, a wetland mitigation easement and have that preclude the option for any access, recreational access. That said, I think it's wonderful to protect that land, period. There is valuable wildlife habitat there. And we know that Chris was all for the turtles, which are there. So I guess that's what I'd say.
Would you be interested in meeting with us when we meet with DES?
Absolutely. I would also recommend Lisa. Okay.
Thank you.
Who's on your committee?
Right now, it's Steve Whitman, who's also on the planning board, Greg Englund, E-N-G-L-U-N-D. I am the only Conservation Commission member. They are not officially recognized by the Conservation Commission. We haven't yet figured out how that structure will work. I don't know if all the members of the Plymouth Baker Trails will need to be members of the Conservation Commission. I think if we tried to do that, we'd have too many members of the Conservation Commission. So we need some other way of dealing with that.
Well, I know that the Conservation Commission strongly supports what you're doing.
Thank you, Neil.
I think this is fantastic.
All right.
Very glad you guys are doing it.
Very good. Thank you.
So there's three of you on the committee?
3 of us currently, yes. And any sort of significant decision-making has to be run through PCC. And I'll be the liaison for that. So there'll be a Plymouth Baker Trails update at every PCC meeting.
Kind of intrigued with your landowner agreement. I'm kind of intrigued with your landowner agreement.
Did you see a copy of that?
No, I
Okay.
want to see it, so.
Let me leave that with Kathy right now, and she can, I'm sorry to make copies. This is actually, we plagiarized, or I guess it's not plagiarized, borrowed from the Hanover agreement. No, not Hanover, Bethlehem Trails Association up in Bethlehem.
Collaborated.
Collaborated. That's a better word.
Were they aware?
Because there are very many conservation commissions that are doing the same thing in the state.
Well, and we have a huge trail project happening just over the river in Holderness, which
We're working with Melanie, and
that's fantastic. Good.
that's a group that we work with closely. All right.
And theoretically, keep your eye on, Livermore Falls, and hopefully at some point connecting trails down.
That would be nice.
Yeah, it would be nice, but future. Thanks very much, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Grace Garvey, she's still on. She is. Grace, could you tell us about Standard Power memorandum of understanding? Easy for me to say again. Hey, Grace.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so I know that I sent Ann and or Kathy a copy of it, but I do also have it up on the screen. I don't know if I can try and share it. The last time we talked about this relationship building between the municipality and Good Energy Standard Power, we talked about this being the place where we start, basically. And that we might actually need to have attorney review of the document, and I don't know where the board is at this point. So I guess, A, do you have a copy? Do you want me to share it?
They all have a copy, Grace.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess the next question would be, are we actually ready to move to the point where we have attorney review of it, so that we can move towards signature if the town so chooses? It is something we're going to be talking about at our first Plymouth Energy Commission meeting this Thursday. So I don't know if we want to, I don't know, anybody have any thoughts about whether we should move this forward now or after our commission meeting this week?
Are you ready? Grace?
Ready to have this reviewed?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I think it's not just about if I am, right? So the commission hasn't really talked about it yet because we haven't convened in our first meeting. I have sent this around to the group. It came to my attention since we first started to have this conversation with Standard Power, that person, Robert Hayden, that there is actually another group out there talking with the New Hampshire Electric Co-op about more renewable resources, for instance, being part of their portfolio and their investment. So I don't know if if we should be exploring what the options are out there a little bit more. I guess I'm struggling a little bit.
You're gonna have a meeting soon.
You mean the PEC?
Right.
Right, this Thursday.
Maybe we should wait.
Right, right.
Yeah. You guys can hash it out.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good idea. Bob has been getting in touch with me quite a bit to figure out where we are with it, because I think there's a little bit of a desire to move it forward into some kind of warrant, position with a warrant article. And I'm talking about Bob Hayden from Good Energy Standard Power. I'm not saying I'm feeling pressured, but I think it was behoove Kathy and Ann to ask me if we should be talking about this, but I guess I'm struggling a little bit, but I think maybe we should talk about it at the Plymouth Energy Commission meeting this week.
Is this the only company that's available right now, Grace? Or just the only one that's approached you?
As far as I know, it's the only company. Oh, well, you sent, actually, was it Ann or Kathy that sent an email about another opportunity, it's similar but not the same, of bulk purchasing,
right,
aggregate for energy.
So there are other companies out there. I think if you waited until your meeting and decide, maybe pursue what else is out there to see what is best for Plymouth. I know he wants to move right along, but
Got it.
You got time before,
Pressured by that.
you got time before you need to have a petition warrant in too, for that matter, but.
petition warrant articles January.
The first Tuesday in February they're due by.
So they have time.
Did you hear her, Grace?
I did.
Yes,
First-
okay.
First Tuesday of February.
Our petition warrant articles, yep.
Right, there's a whole vetting process that Standard Power would want to go through before that warrant article is generated and developed, and so I think that's only, writing the article is only part of it, but that's okay. But I think that, this isn't my decision. What I'm hearing from the board is maybe it's best to figure out what else is out there at this point. And to talk about it through the Plymouth Energy Commission.
That would be good.
Sounds
Okay.
great.
Yeah,
Yep.
sounds good.
Okay,
See you.
You too. Do we need to vote on the other letters that I sent? Or has the board already accepted the
All the
request for
appointments.
EC
So what?
nominees?
All of the appointments
Oh.
have been done. They just
Yeah.
need to stop into the town clerk's office, just not this week. She is not here, and the office is closed, so they won't be able to be sworn in until Monday.
I think some of those people have already done that,
Okay.
which is good.
But they're,
including myself.
everyone that you've recommended has been appointed.
Okay, great. So, and then the other thing is, I guess maybe could we go on the next agenda? Because by that time, I think we can talk about this memorandum and kind of report in on what else is out there.
Very good, yep. We'll put you on the agenda.
Neil, you'll be opening the doors for us on Thursday, is that correct?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, well.
I am.
All right.
All right, over and out.
All right. Thanks,
Thanks,
Grace.
Grace.
Good seeing you.
Thank you.
Next, Bruce Wiggett. Want campus property claim denial.
This has been denied.
Hello, I'm just following up on the last time I came here in terms of the damage caused to our property at 119 Main Street. Primex did a cursory investigation, but it doesn't sound like they ever determined what it was. They fell back on RSA 507B, which is essentially a way for a town to say, which only towns that are through Primex can do this, that says, as long as you can't, what's the exact, as long as I can't show, and it's burden of proof is on me, that insufficiencies was created by an intentional act by a municipal officer or employee acting in the scope of their his or her official duty, while in the course of their employment, acting with gross negligence or with reckless disregard of hazard. So I would have to find someone that flipped a switch that caused it to happen. No one was able to determine whose easement it is, the drainage. The state says that I have to look that up, and easements are put in via last name. And certainly Don Stoke didn't put the easement in. So the easement was put in before 1975, which means that I would have to spend the next however many months digging through files at Grafton County to determine who had the easement and when it was put in. The state did put in drainage on the town during the roadside, but no one investigated what easements. All they said is, oh, there's an easement there. That's an easement. We'll just leave it. So nothing new was done to it. My concern is that we have, they did $30,000 worth of damage according to what Primex looked, and I have nothing going to be done by the town, nothing that's going to be done by the state. And the only way that I can truly make sure that if this does happen again is to put it on public record now that you have an issue, so that I can hold everybody accountable for when it happens again. Because we have a loss and I have no other way to do that. Walk to Campus pays last year $296,519 in taxes. All right. Without being able to, referring it to Primex, and Primex essentially saying, hey, we're going to fall back on the RSA that says, short of someone, blowing up your house through a fault, like a negligent act, we're not accountable for anything. We could not touch a water line for 150 years, and if the water line bursts, no one's responsible. We pay a lot of taxes, right? If without admitting fault, you could work with us to have essentially a concession of what I had asked for from the town for repair, the $15,000. It's far less than the damage that Primex's own third-party investigator determined damage done to my building. I think that would go a long way to make us feel a little bit better. Being as right now, Walk to Campus was stuck with the bill, and no one's going to fix it, and no one's trying to fix it. And if it happens again, I then have to wait to have more repairs done in hopes to then take the town to court to sue you for the loss of my second loss. And I don't want to do that. I want to have a good relationship with the town. We pay 3% of the taxes for the town. And all we're looking for is some sort of concession or something from the town that says, look, we know it's going to be expensive to dig into the sidewalk to determine what occurred, but as of right now, no one's looking to see what occurred. They're just falling back on the RSA, which I get. you know, as a tax-paying member of town, like I certainly don't want my town to be liable for some things, but I also, as a representative of a business that's, you know, very present in town, you know, party occurred, town didn't incur any of the trash pickup. Myself and all the other property managers dug in, and I removed 18 yards of trash that came off of my dime because it was in the middle of the street, and we wanted to sweep it up and take care of it because we want a good relationship with our town. So I know that Primex wouldn't tell me anything because I talked to Scott, and Scott said, hey, you know, call Primex for any of the information. So I called Primex, and Primex is like, nope, they're a client of ours, I'm not telling you anything. Go back to the town. And the town says, well, go back to Primex. So I have no knowledge of what information you provided them outside of what I provided you in my initial investigation. So we still, I'm hoping that we can come to something so that I can come back to my company and say, the town of Plymouth is vested in a business in town that, you know, is working hard to make sure that we have a, you know, keep our buildings up, make sure they're nice, make sure that our residents are, you know, our trash is taken care of, etc. So.
You haven't been able to determine what the source of the water was?
No one can. There's a drainage easement right in front of where it occurred in my building. Plymouth Water and Sewer couldn't get a camera there, but did a smoke test, but I mean, there's no real determinative response from a smoke test. It went through where it's supposed to, but my assumption and the assumption of most of the people that were down there was that there was an old drainage box that had been used predating, you know, when the town took over like storm sewer, and it was filled with gray water and, you know, waste, and eventually the box failed, which means that if there's anything still feeding into that box, it's just seeping slowly into my building. But we don't know because no one's done any investigative work.
Is that easement on your property?
Yes.
You can't excavate it?
By law, I can't touch an easement until I work with whoever has the easement.
You don't know who owns the easement?
I've asked the town who owns the easement, and they say talk to the state, and I talk to the state, and they say talk to the county.
Wouldn't
and
it
I
be
talk to the
recorded?
county, and they're like, you have to give me the last name of the person who put it in.
So
Can't
won't you
search by-
continue to have the problem if you don't?
That's the question. We have no clue. No one knows what occurred. All I know is that I had 15 to 20,000 gallons of water, of sewage water, dumped into my building, to which cost me $15,000 because I did a lot of the work in-house. But if I had a contractor do it, it would have been $30,000 worth of damage. And I have everybody with their finger on their nose, and a law that says that I can't hold you accountable unless I find a way to prove that a worker was negligent at the time. I mean, that's not the route that Walk to Campus wants to take. It's, in looking at most case laws, it's not, I mean, the RSA is put in place to protect towns, right? Because sometimes bad things happen, and we get that. You know, bad things occur. But bad things occur, and then everybody just hiding behind the law and literally sticking the business owner with zero recourse, but to just continue to eat the costs and nothing going in to repair or to find out or investigate what it is what's concerning to myself and concerning to my company, which is partly why I'm back in terms of, I want to benchmark on the record that we say that you have a drainage issue in the town of Plymouth. So if it does happen again, that we can follow legal suit, because I don't have any legal suit otherwise. So the way the RSA works is if I trip on the sidewalk and I crack my head open, you guys have zero liability. If 5 days beforehand I went into town and it's on record that I say, you have a problem with the sidewalk there, then I fall down and crack my head, you're liable to pay because you were notified of the information and you did something about it. This is buried underground. I can't dig through our sidewalk. You know, you guys have used, so Walk to Campus owns to the curbing on the state road, but easement allows the state to put in a sidewalk. So we have a sidewalk there that I can't legally touch without going through you or through the state. And then the drainage easement underneath is registered to whomever put it in, you know, the 1920s. And no one, you have to find the last name of the human being that put it in, which is next to impossible unless you guys have it on record. That's something I don't know if they have it on record.
Did you go to Plymouth Village Water and Sewer to check their engineering?
Village Water and Sewer says, nope, it's not us, talk to the town. I've literally every single
Drainage
person.
is us.
Huh?
Drainage would be us, not them.
Drainage, you know, technically
We don't
drainage
have
is
sewer.
Sewer stuff in there.
We don't have sewer.
He doesn't know if it's sewer or if it's
or if it was just stagnant water.
stagnant water.
It was classified as.
But the easement,
But the
easement says drainage easement,
easement
right?
says drainage easement.
Not
But it was
sewer
put
easement.
in before the town of Plymouth took over.
Village
drainage.
Water and Sewer,
So Water and Sewer probably put it in.
at which point they might have the
It
records.
came later.
They don't, I don't know exactly what the order of operations is,
Okay.
of who came first or what's going on. All I know is that I got stuck with a $15,000 bill for $30,000 worth of work, and no one is gonna take responsibility. And that's okay, but we wanna have a good relationship with the town, and as a business in town that pays a substantial amount of taxes, we'd love for the town to work with us, to come up with something to ease our burden, you know, especially in a time when COVID has impacted student attendance at school. University has pulled people back onto campus to make sure that their beds are filled. Can't talk to a property manager in town that doesn't talk about, you know, low housing. You know, we're working to fill housing. You know, I'm renting to housing. I rent to anybody that comes to me, but sometimes it's hard to rent to a family on 19 Russell, right? It's not exactly the space that the family wants to, you know, to go to. So,
But even if we made a concession, it still doesn't prevent it from happening again.
no, nothing. The only
That's
thing
the
is,
struggle, though. That's
so if you could find some way to meet me halfway and say, gave us a small concession and some of the money went towards finding out what occurred, that would ease my concerns that it's not going to happen again, right? Because as of right now, you're on notice. If it happens again, you're liable for it all, because I put it on public record that you have a drainage issue in front of my building. So if the drainage issue continues and does any more damage to my building, RSA 507B, Primex will have to pay out.
I think we got, I think because Primex denied it, you know, they're our insurance company.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that.
And it just seems like we can drill down on that easement. You know, I don't quite get why we can't find it. Or, you know, Joe, do you have any idea that, Joe's still here?
And Joe and I've gone, like, and looked ourselves, like, in all of his best road plats are with Plymouth Water and Sewer, who have shared it with me, but there's no demarcation on the plat as to who the drainage is assigned to, who put it in.
Has there been a request at Woodsville or to, you know?
I talked to them, and the only thing they'll say is, by all means, we can come up here, we'll search it, you just have to tell me the last name of the individual that put it in.
That doesn't seem right.
We do have some information that we can supply to him if the board would authorize that.
Oh, yeah?
Basically, what you have to do is you have to go from the current ownership
To the
backwards.
previous, and backwards, as far back as you can go.
And we can do that.
Okay.
Um,
And that's an easy enough search.
However, we're not saying that the town is liable for your,
Primex has already determined that
Right.
until I can prove negligence on the town or whomever did the work last,
so if you could.
you guys you're not criminally liable. And I can tell you that Walk to Campus isn't going to sue the town of Plymouth.
So
We will if it happens again,
you
and
give
no
us
one's
the
done anything.
authorization to meet with him and find the information that we found very easily. And we found it very easily.
And why can't we
I'm not
share?
sure why.
It wouldn't
why-
provide anything to us.
Who wouldn't?
Water and sewer.
Primex.
Oh, Primex? Oh, the water and
No,
sewer.
Primex
Water and sewer
won't.
wouldn't either.
Primex won't. That's our personal, but we can,
Okay.
if the board would give us the authority to share with them.
I think the
We need a
original
motion.
No, I
drainage
just need-
systems in the town were installed about 100,
Yeah.
110 years ago.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's when this was put in and hasn't been touched since. And just failed. And
We actually went back through with the historian on the board here of what was there before that, what was there before that, and that's how we were able to come up with.
when I asked what the investigative process was, they said that they perceived the information that I essentially was given the information that I provided. And to know that you did some investigation makes me feel a little better, because,
We did quite a bit.
okay.
Okay.
And I still would go back to some form of tax concession would not admit fault. You have a mechanism in place as of right now for tax concessions. You know, we had a hardship in town, and it just so happens the hardship in town came from something from the town, but it still comes back to, without any fault, we still had a hardship. And to be able to have some sort of concession would speak volumes of the town's want for a business to be successful in town. And $15,000, it's less than, you know, I don't know, 5%, less than 3% of what we pay in taxes every year.
So unless there's a motion from the board in that regard, I think the first step is at least to release the information that we have so you can, further research this and then maybe come back to the board with a request for a tax abatement or,
Okay.
Based on the findings.
yeah.
Yeah, just to make sure that who put it in. That's all, like, who put this in? You know, and then when it was put in, when the state came through and updated the storm sewer in front of the building, why was that information not shared? Right? If that information was not shared and it was just abandoned, whose decision was that? You know, ultimately, I want to be able to make sure that I'm representing my company, and I'm making sure that that the town works with the business in town to make sure that we're successful. Like, there's none of this, there's no contentious anything. I want to make sure that my company doesn't get stuck with a high bill and pay for something that we have zero control over. Because it's an easement, I can't legally touch it. I couldn't have updated it, I couldn't have corrected it, I still can't dig into the ground to fix it. Not without absolutely everybody on board, essentially saying, oh, sure, let's all agree to do this.
So since you've owned the property, you have not signed any easements at all, is that correct?
To my knowledge, I have not been a part of any easements since I've only been managing Walk to Campus since 2018, 17, I believe. They purchased it, from Don Stope, and I don't believe Don put in any easements. I don't believe
If there
Don.
were, there should be in the deed.
And I just checked the deed from Don, and there was no easements.
Prior to the Clean Water Act in 1967, our drainage system was combined with our sewer system.
Yeah.
And
That's why
I
my
know,
indication is that it's,
I know that John Keniston was involved in supervising a lot of the work.
What year was that?
Well, he died in 1931.
my guess is, so, ultimately, I'm not looking to, the RSA is clear, right? Town of Plymouth can, short of me being able to point to someone in a court of law, and it's not worth, I'll spend more than $15,000 in legal fees trying to prove, a negligent act. For us, it's more of a I want to find a way to recoup the losses and not just take the hit. You know, and if I took the hit and, yeah, I just don't want my company to have to, you know, absorb all of that when it's not something that we had any control over. We couldn't have fixed it if we wanted to. I could have seen it leaking, and I legally am not allowed to touch a drainage easement. I couldn't dig through your sidewalks if I wanted to. So that's about where I'm at. I just wanted to, you know, touch base, put it on, you know, public record, you know, that there is an issue there, and that if everybody knows where it's coming from, it sounds like you did some research. If we know that it's there, we know that it's broken, and we know that it's still dumping water into my building, you know.
Just to be clear, that's not what you implied. The research that you did is
No,
identified
if it
ownership
was-
history.
If it was ours, I wouldn't have let
Yeah.
it go that, right.
No,
Just
you
can't
wouldn't
let
have
it
told
go
me.
that
That's
far.
fine. I get
No,
it.
no, we'll tell you, but, so
You're
Bruce,
protecting the town's interest, and I can appreciate that, and I'm protecting my business's interest. All I'm looking for is for a business that pays 3% of the property taxes in town to have something from the town coming back, and I believe that it can be done through tax, you know, through some form of tax relief for our company without you admitting any sort of fault, because you're not at fault, and for us to demonstrate to Walk to Campus that you truly do care about business in town, because we hear about building business and wanting all these businesses, and you have a business that took a huge hit, and right now I don't see anything. So I mean, I'll gladly take that information and I'll look through the easements and I'll say that Primex did their due diligence. But in the end, I'm still facing the fact that I had to cut drywall up 4 feet in an entire complex, and I had to do that in the middle of COVID. That was not exactly a fun project to do while housing people.
So our conversations will only be about the information that we were able to locate?
Yeah.
Won't be about guarantees of payment, won't be about any
No.
abatements. I'm not gonna,
It's
I can't get
'cause,
into that.
You know, basically, we are insured, our insurance company found that, you know,
Yeah,
they're not,
as long as there's no negligent act,
right.
you can't be held accountable. Like that's clear. I get it. Walk to Campus understands it's not worth our time and effort to try to fight that.
It may be, but that's your
it's
decision.
not- I would have to go and find someone that would see that it was not a frivolous act, a frivolous lawsuit, for me to do that. And it's just not the route that Walk to Campus wants to take. Walk to Campus wants to have that good relationship with the town and feel as though the town cares about its business. And if the town wants to protect the $15,000, that's fine. You know, we'll just have to deal with it, I guess.
It's your decision, and also, a frivolous lawsuit isn't frivolous necessarily, so, you know, just keep that in mind too, but, so therefore, we probably need a motion to be able to release the information that we've discovered, and, then you can take it from there.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to release the information discovered pursuant to the previous ownership of the property in question.
All right, we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
I'll stop by at some point.
Okay, just stop by or call. She's not here until next week. Okay.
Jeff Hale and Representative Joyce Weston.
Good evening, and thank you, first of all.
Well, thank you for being so patient. I mean, our meetings get longer and longer, and sorry that you're near the end.
Well, appreciated. And having listened to the discussions that came before, this is, I'd like to think is going to be much easier, smaller. I just like to, I'm here to make a few remarks, and followed by a modest ask that, very modest ask in my opinion, that has no dollars attached to it. So just to set the stage. I'm here, again, my name is Jeff Hale. I live on Slate Lane. And I'm here informally, very informally, representing a small number of households clustered along Slate Lane and Thompson Farm Road. The part of Thompson Farm Road, at least, that is in Plymouth, but you know, it does extend beyond. But at any rate, and when I say informally, I mean nothing more than confined to email and a few face-to-face discussions spanning several months, and about the internet service in this small pocket of town. I've lived on, I've lived in Slate Lane for 20 years. I'm a taxpayer. I have 2 residences on my property, 2 households. Our small cluster, our collective, if you will, of households are, you know, we use the internet for healthcare. I personally use it for healthcare, banking, shopping, and there are others who use it also for work at home and for education. As we all know, as we all realize during the age of COVID, internet has become, has moved, much as electricity did 90 years ago, has moved from a nice, you know, nice to have to a core requirement of a certain standard of living. Our broadband options in this area are basically, as I'm sure you know, are Spectrum, so cable TV, formerly Warner Cable, Consolidated, the phone company, used to be Fairpoint. Now, with much applause, we know that the co-op is getting into the cable business, and of course, you've got satellite up there someplace with like HughesNet and Starlink, Elon Musk. But those are basically our four options for broadband. The drivers of broadband build really are basically 3 things: price, speed, and access. Okay, and when I'm talking about access, that's really more what I'm here to talk about is access to true broadband is based on population density. We know that that the areas with a higher concentration per mile of households going to get prioritized. Certainly, we can look at what New Hampshire Broadband, the co-op, is doing with their build out. They're concentrating on, you know, what maximum impact for the greatest number of households, and we get that. Okay, which brings us, but it does bring us back to the small pocket of that we are on Slate Lane and Thompson Farm Road, and imagining that we're probably not the only cluster like us in the town of Plymouth. That there is, you know, a good probability that there are other groups of households like us. We're surrounded, you know, like Loon Lake Road now has cable, so they have 100 megabytes per second of service. Okay, we have Consolidated. We have 1.5 megabytes per second, 1.5 compared to 100. Okay, just going to the corner of Slate Lane and Loon Lake Road. We get consolidated DSL. Now, the concern that I'm really here to talk about is just getting on the radar. Okay, I've been back and forth with, back before it was Spectrum, it was Warner. Talked to Warner, I've talked to the town about the contract that we have with Warner, or now Spectrum. It's a monopolistic contract, I understand why. But I've had conversations with your predecessors, or at least I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he was He was the person on the select board who dealt specifically with.
Contract, yeah, Mike Conklin.
Yes, that's right. Okay, and I remember talking to him. And basically, after several conversations, I remember what he said when that contract came up for renewal. It's one-sided. They have all the power. Okay? And the more frustrating, part of this is that we can't get, nobody is willing to talk about when, okay? Is it months, is it years, when? So we're not looking for a date certain. We just want to know what year, okay? And even with, and again, with much applause to the co-op for getting into this business, and recognizing that they have lots of other work and priorities going on, and that this is, I just think it's, we applaud them. But it's very frustrating to not know where that line is going to be, and especially because it feels like we're so far at the end of the line we're going to fall off the ledge. And so I think now the other people in that I say that I'm here informally representing, I don't know if they would have the same ask or expectation. But if I had to make a request to the select board today, I would say that when it's time to have a voice, that I, as a taxpayer, look to the town to be an active voice somehow. Find a way to make sure that we're not forgotten, and any other clusters in the town that are in the same boat. And even if it's just to ask these providers when, give us an idea, okay? Now, as I was thinking, so again, and I'm this far from wrapping up. So but part of the reason that I'm here now we're here now is because we know that there's we're looking at possibly a good influx of funding, of money from the federal government. I'm looking, Joyce provided me with a great article that comes from Governing. Okay, what's missing from the infrastructure bill $65 billion broadband plan, and I'm cutting right to the chase. Under the current version of the infrastructure bill, each state would receive $100 million. States have to submit a plan to explain what they'll do with the money, but it might be used to award sub-grants to service providers or companies. And they also talk about municipal broadband projects. That's not what we're here to beat the drum about, but the money is intended to flow first to areas that don't reach minimum broadband speeds of 25 megabytes per second. We don't have broadband. When Consolidated says, oh yeah, we've got broadband out on Slate Lane, 1.5, it's not broadband by the FCC, minimum benchmarks or minimum speeds. So again, I think I'm here to make this point that I've just made. I don't know what form that voice would be. I mean, a letter, to make this ask of Consolidated, of Spectrum, and of the co-op. And my final point, as I was looking at the article that Joyce provided me with, it occurred to me, I don't know when, and I didn't, it just occurred to me like a few hours ago as I was looking this over, that I didn't think to ask when the Spectrum contract expires.
3 years?
I said renews.
Oh, yeah, so.
2022, I believe.
No, excuse me, I'm sorry. It's more than semantics. You said renews. I said expires, and I said expires for a reason. Go ahead.
I think it's next year,
next year, okay.
I don't mind Spectrum even being a player, and then we may renew theoretically their contract, but we also want to accommodate the electric cooperative. In fact, you be proactive and get on their website and say, I want to be a partner in this. And, you know, if we, there's two things. They have this little link. They can actually go to the electric cooperative and say, yeah, I want to
I've
participate.
done all of this, yes.
But the other thing is, we need to approach the electric cooperative and say, you know,
When are you coming
what,
to Plymouth?
what's that?
When are they coming to Plymouth? I can tell you from experience, so the electric co-op started in Leominster, where my dad was on the board when they made that
And
decision.
they're up in Sandwich now, and.
They can't provide enough service for the towns.
No, but they're
They're a
sub.
year into that project and they're
subbing to different companies that were able to provide their build out their fiber network. The other thing is for actually us to approach the co-op and tell them to send a questionnaire to all their users, because they sell electricity to everybody, and find out whether or not they want internet.
They've done that.
I haven't seen a questionnaire from them.
We did that a year ago, didn't we?
A questionnaire from the electric cooperative saying,
There was a survey, actually it was before they made the decision to jump into the to the internet business.
Yeah,
They did a
I recall that.
well-structured survey, but you're saying, I'm sorry, so you're,
They just need to send a card out saying, hey, do you need broadband? Or
Yes.
And the problem is too, it's a matter of whether or not someone wants to fork over $100 for 100 meg service, or someone's very happy with like 10 meg or 5 meg. And so therefore, if you question that person, they're underserved because they made a financial decision to make themselves underserved. So it's a difficult thing to get around, but still, the co-op can attack it in one questionnaire and find out who wants the service and build it out like that.
Right.
Jeff, have you spoken to Spectrum specifically about what the cost would be to pull cable from the last pole where it stops to your?
No, but when I had that conversation, when I could finally reach an engineer who would talk, or a project manager who would talk to me off the record, he said 15 grand.
So,
low end, actually.
I got this. I had this happen. So I'm many years ago. I bought a house in Ellsworth, New Hampshire, which had no cable. The cable ended at the line in Campton, which was 9 poles away from my house. And as you can imagine, getting through the phone tree and finally getting to an engineer is an extraordinarily challenging and persistent task to get there. But I achieved that, and roughly the cost ended up being about $500 a telephone pole, reduced by $1,000 for each subscriber that you passed along the way. So for me, 9 poles, I had one neighbor that it passed by, plus myself, it ended up being $2,500. It took them 6 months to schedule it, but then they came and did the work. There was a ton of legwork to get there.
Yes.
But Spectrum did the work once we broke down all of the.
It would be great, but I can't. You can't get past customer service. How do that's and that's the they won't tell you who you can go to talk to inside the company. So unless somebody tells, and I'm having the same problem with Consolidated. Just to get, they offer, Consolidated offers 15 and 30 megabytes per second. 30 megabytes just barely creeps above that threshold. It would still be 20 times more than I'm getting now.
Consolidated is going to be a dead end for you. DSL technology is proximity based, and you're too far out. You're not going to get there on DSL.
You say, but I've got a picture. My son lives in Amherst, and 3 months ago they came through. Consolidated came through his street, and they trenched and they dropped fiber optic, and now there's a sign on the corner.
But they're not even they're not laying fiber optic in this town yet. Where they're laying fiber optic there, they're not laying it in this town. You're the co-ops.
Okay, your point taken. Yes.
There's a lot of different trees to bark up. You get lost if you try to choose all of them.
What you're saying,
exactly.
and I appreciate that. So, I'm not sure, but I think what I heard was that you said that suggested that the next time the contract comes around, that that the town of Plymouth would consider the co-op as an alternative to Spectrum?
It might be kind of premature, but I would appreciate competition in
The
this
contract's
town.
for cable service, though.
What's that?
The contract's for
contract's
cable
for-
service, and the electric company is not providing
That's
cable
true.
service.
That is
Yep.
true.
So they're not a competitor in a bid for that contract.
That's true.
Okay, well, I need a competitor for broadband though, because if you go online, you find out that no other
They're not,
provider.
but they don't have an exclusive right to broadband
right.
in this town. They have an exclusive right to.
Apparently, the companies that compete with them feel that they do, because you can't get service from anybody else.
You can't get service from another cable company in this town.
Yeah.
And the electric co-op
yeah.
hasn't built out their service here. So that's a business decision. There's no legislation that's stopping them.
Got it.
They may be lacking an incentive, but
Yeah, well,
that's a different topic.
the thing that's kind of galling too is that back in 2008, there was a lot of like federal funds that actually built out a cable infrastructure. And there's a trunk that goes up like 93, ends up in Plymouth State University. And the galling thing is that Bristol's taking advantage of that trunk, and they're rolling out high-speed municipal broadband.
Who is this? Which is this?
Bristol, they're
No,
putting.
no, who's the provider?
Well, it's basically the state, or the federal government threw a bunch of money to develop a trunk.
Is it?
Fiber optic.
Is
yeah,
it
high-speed
it's fiber
corridor.
optic?
Yep, and Bristol's tapping into that.
And it goes up to where?
Draper
Geez, you
Manor.
can
It goes to where?
Like 93 up north.
All of past, so through here?
It runs right through Draper and Maynard. They're actually, for a while, and I don't know if this company is still in business, but there was a company who was selling wireless broadband connection to just the downtown area, and they were servicing it out of the Enterprise Center. There was an antenna on that building, and you would get a device in your house that was wireless, not like the wireless in your computer, but they offered a gigabit speed internet access for downtown. I used that as a business on
wireless,
Main Street.
yeah.
It was a wireless
Yeah.
gigabit internet service
Okay. Okay, so I just,
built off of that fiber loop.
Yeah, so yeah.
so back to the concern about our small, we don't have the density, your point about, revisiting possibly Spectrum and figuring out the build out. Can you offer us anything as far as being a voice? So as we go, and we're willing, we're all willing to do the work, roll up our sleeves and do the work. But at some point, if we need some assistance from the town as far as being a voice to get access to people, I mean, are there things that you can do?
So are you asking us to be an advocate on your behalf when the contract comes up for renewal / expiration, but in their minds, it's going to be a renewal,
Right.
to try to get attention on you? Is that what you're asking for?
I mean,
If we get to that point, but even go ahead.
If I could get contact information off the contract, I'd be happy to talk to an engineer about getting some quotes for folks that would be willing to pay.
That would be great.
I mean, then people could come back to the board and advocate for the town to take some of that cost or share in that cost, or individuals could pay for it. But I would be willing to make those painful phone calls anew on
That would be
citizens'
huge
behalf,
and
if the
greatly
board allows me to do so.
I'd just like to mention that ARPA money can be used for broadband infrastructure. Why is nobody considering that? Why is it on Jeff to do it when we have this money available to the town?
Well, right now there's nowhere to spend it.
Well, we're giving you a suggestion, right?
And as I have
I think-
offered,
I
I will
think-
talk to Spectrum to try to figure out if we can
It
determine
looks to
these
me,
costs.
I mean, Kathy, thank you very much for your letter that you put on the website recently. But in reading that particular paragraph about the ARPA money, at the very end, it says "or broadband," as though it's an afterthought. And I don't think it should be an afterthought. It's something that we really need in the town.
There's a lot of broadband money going forward right now. And
Exactly. So
and
that's
it's both at the
an
county level, state level, and local. I mean, we could use that ARPA funds for broadband. But yeah, again, who should we pay it to? I mean, if electric cooperative was like
I
rolling
don't
out
think the
fiber.
electrical cooperative is a worthwhile pursuit.
I don't think they're ready.
I'm not.
I don't think the electrical cooperative is a worthwhile pursuit at this point.
Yeah, I'm not exactly with you, but that's okay.
To Zach's point, it's like, they could be years and years in the making.
And honestly,
five-year plan,
they're
actually.
going to start in rural areas. Their mission with this project is to serve the most rural, like the reason they started in Leominster, there's 1,700 people there. There's no store in that entire town. They didn't even have DSL.
Right. So, I appreciate and I think we'd welcome anything that you can do to get us pointed in the spectrum direction, even before the contract renews. To the electric co-op, we can go back at the co-op, and I anticipate a much easier time getting to talk, finding our path to the people that we need to talk to there. And even if it's a 5-year plan, where would the small pockets like us be on the 5-year plan? Just tell us. Give us a target. That's, at a minimum, we should be able to expect that. So,
If Bristol can use the broadband trunk that's sitting like a stone's throw away from us, and they can initially start out, well, it took them 3 years, they're going on 4 years. The project was to build a municipal broadband network utilizing fiber. And then they moved that to both municipal and citizen. And that's what's being rolled out now.
would you know anybody in Bristol that I might talk to find out more
Well, I
about
can
this?
give you the name of the person's, Nick Coates, Nikcoates.
I have his email.
I got his phone
Okay.
number if you want to, but, what's that?
Okay.
Yeah, he's the town administrator, but he's also, like, the county had a broadband, consortium or whatever, committee.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick was voted to be the chair of that.
Mhm.
And that's basically to accommodate what the legislature did for different towns that wanted to join together to form broadband networks or whatever. And what they do is then they can bond as a group, which we could do as well. But it would require a lot of money. But yeah, a lot of federal money's coming down the pike.
Right.
And so, yeah, we could do that, but my hope is also the electric cooperative can be also engaged, and also they're subbing with all these companies. It's not just their group, they'll put the infrastructure in, and different companies can like run the lines,
Right.
So, there's still a lot of options on the table, a lot of money coming down the pike, so, and, I'm looking forward to using 100 meg up and down. I got 27 down, which is not that bad.
Right.
So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of opportunities down next year or two.
Do you have anything?
Any discussion on what the county is doing with their funding?
The
No,
county?
I haven't heard exactly.
Well, actually, I'm on the executive committee, and broadband is not really part of it at all. I mean, we just passed our budget recently. So they've got half their money now, and it's been delegated, but broadband was not high on the list. Everybody's waiting for this broadband cloud to land on us, and it's very ethereal, so we don't know what's happening.
Can I have a person from the board to speak to Spectrum?
What's that?
Can I get
Wants
permission from the board to speak to Spectrum?
I have no problem.
I have no
Sure.
problem either. You've done it once
the
before, so
contract.
you're the best person to probably talk to them.
We really appreciate your coming in
Well,
to enlighten us on your concerns.
and again, I thank you, Neil, and I'd be interested in knowing, I think there are probably other small pockets around town that might be in the same boat. And so if this serves to further, benefit them in the long run, then so be it, hopefully. ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I apologize for coming at you a little strong over the semantics.
Oh, it's
The
okay,
cut,
it's
so
okay.
I
It
didn't-
takes,
I-
it takes a lot to offend me.
Okay, thank you.
You didn't even breach the threshold.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks,
Joyce.
Jeff. Thanks, Joyce.
Okay.
Maybe Alex wanted to talk to us.
Yes, it looked that way, but he just decided to take off, so.
Can I make a motion to reappoint Bill Bolton to the
Yes, please.
Pemmy River Local Advisory Committee?
Are you sure he wants to do it?
I'll second it.
All right, it's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We didn't have any discussion.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
I,
Aye.
Or was it that, Neil, did you want to do that instead?
no.
Oh, is there another?
Though admittedly, Neil, you'd probably be the next best choice.
Yeah.
Tom is
I'm supposed to
on,
sign here?
Yeah, all the, yeah,
He's on for
Tom is on the top.
okay. Is he next?
He's under non-public, Bill,
Oh.
at your request.
Skip your committee report.
Are there any committee reports?
Are you making a motion to skip our committee reports?
We love that.
Jeez, it's a very important part of this meeting.
I can tell you that I have no reports for any of mine.
I attended planning board for Zach.
Thank you.
That was about it.
You wear many hats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so therefore, seeing no committee reports or further committee reports, what?
Oh, I don't have a report because Greg Netner did it for me.
Okay, good. All right, so therefore,
Make a motion to go into non-public in accordance with RSA 91A:3, 2A personnel.
all right, it's moved by Zach. Is there a second?
Second.
So it's 10 seconds. Zach, your vote. Neil?
Aye.
Bill? Aye.
Aye.
Diane? Ted?
Aye.
We're non-public.